Good morning. Welcome to St. Peter's Trinity Episcopal Church in Thomaston, Connecticut. I'm the Reverend Lois Keen, priest in charge of St. Peter's Trinity, and this is the sermon for Sunday, August 23rd, 2020. A poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar, written in 1896, called We Wear the Mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. Every time we read one of the three versions of today's Who Do People Say That I Am Gospels, we ourselves are confronted by that question, who do I say Jesus is? What place does Jesus have in our lives? And why do people say that we are, each of us, as believers and worshipers of Jesus? Today, because we who wear a mask in public are performing an act of love for our fellow citizens in this day of COVID-19, we might say Jesus is the love that motivates us to keep one another safe. However, in 1896, when Paul Laurence Dunbar wrote the poem I just read, We Wear the Mask, he was a black man writing during the Jim Crow years of this country. He wrote about black life in those times in a way that was palatable to white Americans. Any hint of the pain of the life under Jim Crow was hidden in subtleties. The mask he wore had to resemble the face of those to whom he couldn't write the truth plainly. Under the mask of subtlety, however, dwells the tears, the sighs, the weary miles trudged by a people distinctly held down by the oppression of having to wear a mask to be even marginally acceptable, even to this day. 3 years ago, a black woman colleague and I read and discussed James Cone's book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree. It is an expose of the mask white Christianity has caused the cross of Jesus to wear in order to make his crucifixion, his lynching at the hand of Rome, more spiritual and thereby more palatable. I say lynching intentionally because long before Jesus was born, the cross was a symbol of piety for the Jews. For years they had been crucified just for being Jews. If you asked one why he was being crucified, he might answer, because I read the Torah. Ask another and you might hear, because I circumcised my son. Another, because I celebrated the Passover, the festival of unleavened bread. For these Jews trailing after Jesus, many of them possibly collaborators with the Roman occupation, the history of their people with the cross must have flashed before their eyes. Crucifixion by the cross was the way Rome terrorized and kept the Jews under control, in the same way Jim Crow and lynchings in America terrorized black lives in order to keep them in control. We can't answer Jesus' question, who do you say that I am, without facing his cross and all it meant, and all the ways we humans have found to dominate other humans through terror. In my conversations with my colleague, I wrote one day, I'm reading chapter 2 of The Cross and the Lynching Tree. The parallels between the two instruments of shaming and torture, the cross in first century Roman Palestine and the lynching tree of Jim Crow America, are obvious to me. I do wonder, however, why the Christianity we have inherited as white people didn't include Jim Crow lynching of black bodies as integral to the theology of the cross. And yet with each lynching in Jim Crow America, Jesus was and still is crucified again and again. And we white people die a little each time we don't acknowledge that the strange fruit on that lamppost or tree, or in today's sanctioned stand your ground killings of black youth, or the pipeline of black children from school to prison, that there is our Lord in those black bodies. When Jesus asks, "Who do you say that I am?" he's inviting us to see that in him God wears no mask. Everywhere he went, in everything he did, Jesus said to Jew, Greek, Roman, civilian, soldier, man, woman, child, sick, poor, neighbor, or enemy, you are a child of God. And he didn't just say it, he acted this relational good news over and over in the midst of a society occupied by the Roman Empire in a dangerous land that hung troublemakers on crosses to shame and torture the people into submission, to show them what happens if you don't wear the mask of compliance to Roman rule. To be a Jew in Roman-occupied Palestine is the equivalent to being a person of color in Jim Crow America. Jesus should have worn a mask, do things to hide his true feelings and message from those who could lynch him at any time for any reason with impunity. But he didn't, because God has no mask, and all people are God's beloved children, including the Roman enemies. This is the message that broke down barriers and made it possible in first century Palestine and Israel and Rome for the Jesus movement to grow and thrive after the resurrection. The message, "You are God's beloved child," was and is so compelling that Jesus' followers lived it in and with their bodies. It is the one single message that sets free the captive, gives sight to the blind, heals the breach between enemies, and breaks down walls. You all are God's beloved children. No one is not your sister or my brother in God. The oppression or captivity or death by violence of anyone is the death of us all in Jesus Christ. That is why this question is so important today. Who do we say Jesus is? What place does he have in our lives? And who do people say we are, each of us individually, as lovers of Jesus and fellow children of God? Do people see in me Jesus' message? You are a beloved child of God. Is that message at the core of my being as a baptized Christian? Or are we more comfortable wearing the mask of respectability that keeps us safe? In Jesus, God wears no mask. God is not respectable. God is in the world, taking down walls brick by brick, faster than we can build them. We are baptized into God's life and mission, and that mission's cry is the same as it ever was. We proclaim with our bodies to all we know that every man, woman, and child, Jew, Greek, black, white, free, slave, enemy, neighbor, are all sisters and brothers, beloved children of the God whose name is love. And to live with integrity into that truth leads directly to the cross. That is why Jesus commands us, the baptized, to take up his cross and follow him, because it alone is the road to resurrection and new life not only for ourselves, but for our beloved brothers and sisters who still are forced to wear the mask. May God bless and keep you. May God make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his peace this day and evermore.